What's up, Winners and Whiners group? It's me, Detroit Lenny here, joined with Scott Reichel. Talk college football first round of the playoffs. Holy moly. First time ever. First playoffs ever. Or whatever, 12. What you know what the hell I'm trying to say.
Bracket.
Yeah,
First 12-team
bracket.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, first, just first. A lot of first. And bowl games have been a little weird with the portal and stuff like that. But how's before we get to, we're gonna go over it real quick. We're gonna go over every college football playoff game for this weekend. Give you a best bet at the end of the show, and then we're also this interactive. So if you got anything you want to talk about specific wise, drop it in the comment. Don't forget to hit the like button, obviously, as always. And yeah. Oh, here's the like thing. I forgot to put that up. Like, share, comment, subscribe. How's bowl games been treating you so far before we start diving into this?
Yeah, so far so good. Ended up
Okay.
having a bit of a struggle early on because of the fact that South Alabama blew the cover at the end against Western Michigan. But besides that, overall, it's been good. I know we ended up liking the over, and we
Mhm.
liked Memphis in that game. Bit of a
Yes.
sweat there. Point is, though, the over was never in doubt. That got there easily. And then for the last two episodes, or for the last two games, been sweeping those too. So after a pretty slow start, I have swept 3 straight shows. So
Nice.
hopefully we keep it rolling for bowl game season. Of course, a reminder, besides the college football playoff episodes, we are also doing standalone videos for the other bowl games. I believe we're actually going to record a couple after this. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind. We have a couple of games to preview, not on this show, that'll be focused on the next couple days too.
I love it. We got a lot coming up. Anything you got going in the Thursday night college football game?
So
The
I actually
Georgia
have a
Southern
player. I have
Sam
a player
Houston?
prop in that one. I know it starts
Okay.
at about now. I got
Yeah.
Watson, the quarterback for Sam Houston State.
Mhm.
I got his over rushing yards at 41.5. Georgia Southern can't really stop the run. The line's kind of plummeted actually to
Yeah.
about -3.5. Sam Houston stayed at about half the team on the portal, and apparently they're all playing. So we'll see what happens. Kind of a weird spot there, but we'll see if the
Mhm.
Conference USA is actually decent or not. Remains to be seen. Western Kentucky, by the way, did not look good in the first Conference USA game. So we'll see what happens, but I got Watson to go over his rushing yards. You have anything?
I got Sam Houston plus 5 points, and I feel like I got that at the highest possible number I could
Mhm.
get. I don't love it. I was talking about this earlier. I'm not in love with it because everybody was going in the portal, but now everybody's playing. I don't know what kind of effort I'm going to get. It's a weird game. I don't feel good about having Sam Houston. Um, I just don't. And it just kicked off like 2 minutes ago. Um, we were on Memphis, and I was on UNLV over last night, but that didn't work out for me. But I think if Cal's quarterback, RJ Harris, third string quarterback, I think if he stays in the game, I think I get the over.
Yeah, you might.
You know what I mean? I think I get there, but the under in that Western, cause James, I was on James Madison as well, so I was very nice with
That was
that
also a
game
very
in
ugly
the
game because
under.
both teams looked out of sorts. So it's kind of thing about bowl
100%.
season. It used to be a lot more, I'd say, entertaining because you
Yes.
got the best efforts from the best players on each team. And now you're
Right.
lucky if you get about 2 players from each team that are actually worth a damn at this point. So it's been an adjustment period. I know the bowl
Mhm.
game season was a bit of a mess for me last year, trying to adjust to the new, I'd say, transfer portal environment. I think I've done a better job lately trying to keep tabs, trying to find sources that give you the
Yes.
income, that give you the information needed that can lead to some income. I know I shared that with you, the link that I
Yes.
saw, which I think has been pretty helpful.
Which has been awesome, because it's all in one area, and I'm all over the place anyway. And now with the who's in, who's not who's in the portal or not necessarily, but who's deciding to play. And it's just a lot of information, and that was a nice little link.
I'll actually share the link from Action Network, but
Yeah.
it gives you every bowl game, gives you the updates on injuries, gives you the updates on opt-outs. So I posted that right now in the live chat. Of
All
course,
right.
since it is playoffs, we better get everybody playing in these games. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, the playoffs, I'm assuming, and I don't hate to do that, but you know what I mean, but drop that there. That's in the live chat on the YouTube channel. By the way, JC says, "What up? Let's go. What up, guys?" From Sunny. Um, let's talk. First, let's go through this. We had our last live show. We gave out the Sun Devils -2, and that was a no doubt winner right there. that was, dare I say, easy money. But Arizona State looking good. Look good in that win too.
Yeah, they did. They ran it down their throats. Scatabo looked great. Overall, it seemed like
Yeah.
after a pretty good start for Iowa State offensively, they just hit a wall, and Arizona State never hit that wall. They just
No,
dominated the entire game.
100%. I love that, and then we'll get to this when we talk about, because the winner.
Well, they don't play this week. But
No, they don't
they have
play
a
this
bye.
week, but the winner between Clemson and Texas play now.
Mhm.
And I have thoughts. We'll talk about that, but that was some good cash. So before we talk about the best bet and stuff like that, let's just get right into Saturday's games, I should say. SMU and Penn State. This is the early game for us West Coast people. I think this is at 8 a.m. 9 a.m. Ooh, I get to sleep in a little. 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Penn State minus 8.5. Total 53.5. I'll let you start on this here. Kickoff. College football Saturday. Playoffs. What are your thoughts?
So I feel like the one thing I got to mention here, of course, is the elephant in the room, which is Franklin's bad record against top 10 teams. There's a nice piece to this equation, though. SMU is not a top 10 team. So Penn State actually has a chance to win this one. SMU looked good. They got in despite losing to Clemson in a game that was really, really chaotic, and they were able to tie it. Then they let Clemson go about 40 yards in the span of about 5 seconds, and they lost on a field goal. Enough to get in, according to the committee. I'm happy they got in personally because I didn't want to see Bama again. Point is, though, do I think SMU is actually good? I think they are talented. Do I think Penn State's more talented? Yeah. Like, the thing about Clemson is Clemson beat this team. I don't think Clemson's that good. Like, we saw Clemson lose to South Carolina the week prior in Clemson. So, SMU, I believe, has not beaten a ranked team all year. They've had a pretty easy schedule. It's not really their fault, but at the same point, the ACC is not exactly that great of a conference. So, I don't think SMU, I would say, is a fraudulent team because they made it here, and I recognize how good that they are. But I think Penn State's better. Like, if you're asking me who I think is going to dominate the trenches in this game, I'm going to tell you Penn State. The game's going to come down to Auer, though. If Auer looks sharp, he looked good against Oregon. They lost the game. They scored a bunch of points. If Penn State looks that good offensively in this game, they should win this game pretty handily. But you have a Texas team playing in the cold weather in Pennsylvania in December. Not sold on that prospect either. Penn State should win the game. Like, I'd kind of be half shocked if SMU pulled it off. But James Franklin's James Franklin, which makes everything interesting. So if you're asking for my initial thought, I think Penn State wins. I think the cover is going to be in the balance. I think Penn State either wins by a small amount of double digits, 10-14, or SMU loses by 7. I think it's a close game, might come down to a play or two, but I really just think Penn State is the more physical team, and I kind of see them dominating the trenches. Clemson, it felt like, got up early and then kind of coasted the entire second half, and the game got interesting because they were playing with their food a little bit, but they looked awful defensively against Clemson for the first quarter and a half of that game. I think Penn State has a lot of offensive weapons with the ground game, with Auer looking pretty good lately. I see Sonny mentioning the over. I don't maybe mind that angle. Once again, keep in mind the weather in Pennsylvania, but I think Penn State in the cold should look better defensively by a pretty decent margin. I'll go Penn State minus 8.5. I don't feel great about it, but SMU, props for getting here. They haven't beaten a ranked team all year. I got to at least mention that. Like, they really have not beaten many good teams.
I'll tell you what, I hate to say that this whole weekend, I feel like it's a chalky weekend. I feel like we're going to lay some numbers here this weekend in the playoffs anyway. 8.5, by the way, I think that's a horrible number.
Yeah.
I think Penn State, this game's going to be close to the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, and Penn State's going to win this game by 10 points or more. That's my guess.
I think it's a standard Penn State drive. They're up one possession. Can SMU get the key third down stop? And they don't. And then Penn State covers the play.
And they won't. And they won't. And weather, I'm looking at weather report, 26 degrees and sunny.
For a Texas
midday.
Game? That's not great.
Penn State. Oh man, this is Saturday afternoon football. And I have to believe, and I think everybody is in agreement here, though, that the playoffs now being in Penn State, this is not a neutral territory. So home field advantage is a factor And they will not get that third down stop that we're talking about. I'm laying the points with Penn State, and I like the over too. I talk a lot about teasers, and everybody knows that about me. I don't hate taking Penn State down in a 6-point teaser, under 3, and over. I don't hate that because maybe under, I think that total's about right, to be honest with you, because SMU is going to score, but I don't think Penn State. I think Penn State's going to do what they want when they want. And I think they come off, James Franklin comes off of a big letdown. And, like he always does, this is a game he gets up for, and they play well and they cover. Now, next week, I don't know about that.
Well,
Second
they might
round,
have they have Boise next week if they win this game, which is honestly manageable for them too. So they have a pretty decent path for Penn State.
Yeah, they have Boise, and I'll tell you what, I'll take Boise. I will take Boise because Penn State won't be able to stop them from running the ball.
I'll wait till we get that matchup to actually dive into the breakdown on that one. But I think for the sake of the conference title game, both teams did lose in their conference title games. I thought Penn State looked pretty good. Like, they didn't get many stops, if any stops, against Oregon. But offensively, they moved the ball. Now, it wasn't a dome. It wasn't Indy. So weather was not a factor in that game. But still, I thought Penn State's offense looked better than I'd say I anticipated. But SMU, looking at their overall road schedule this season, they beat Louisville by 7. That's basically their best road win of the entire season. So I don't know if that's really worth much. Now, I'll clarify, by the way, that Louisville was ranked at the time. Pitt was ranked at the time of their matchup. Right now, based on the final AP rankings, they've beaten 0 AP-ranked teams the entire season. So that's kind of what I meant, for clarification. But beating Louisville on the road, it's a good win, but Penn State's a different animal.
Yeah, a little different. Let's move on to the next matchup here. Clemson, Texas. Texas favored by 12, total 51.5. This is one of those ones I can't lay the points personally. I have to take, this is too many points. Texas wins this game. I don't believe they cover though. I don't know. I mean, do you disagree? Thoughts on this?
I would pick Texas to cover if they were using Manning at quarterback, but they're not.
And they're not. Right.
I don't think Ewer's been good for the last couple of weeks, and
I don't think he's 12 points good.
No, that's kind of why I was wrong with the Texas breakdown of that Georgia SC title game, because I was expecting to see Marsh Manning, and we saw him play one snap. And I thought that Ewers had a lot of passing yards. I thought he did not pass the eye test for about 98% of the game. I would have tried something different. Point is, though, Texas, I think, should win the game. They've been great defensively, really not great offensively lately. So I think I actually like the under in this game. I think I'm expecting a lower scoring game. Klubnik, I'm not the biggest fan of. Clemson defensively is not as good as they have been in previous years, but they have still been fine. I think that it's going to be a lower scoring game. Texas, I want to actually read off the scores of their games for the last couple of, I'd say, weeks. And it's been a lot of, I'd say, slugfests for Texas. Honestly, Clemson hasn't had many high-scoring games either. But Texas, look at the actual games recently. Game against Georgia went to overtime. That game did land 41 anyway, post-overtime. A&M was 17-7. Kentucky was 31-14. Arkansas was 20-10. 4 straight games with less than 46 points. Like, Texas is winning these games, most of them, but they're not scoring many points. I'll go with the under in this one. I think the total's too high.
I don't hate the under angle here because I think Clemson gives them a fight.
Yeah.
Do I think Clemson wins this game? I don't know.
I don't think Clemson's good. I know they won the ACC. I'm not impressed by them watching them this season. They lost to South Carolina at home. So I think that, once again, Clemson's fine. They won a very weak Power 5 conference, Power 4 conference now, and it's why they got in. But Texas, I'll put it this way. I don't want to lay 12 with an offense whose quarterback I don't trust. So I'll probably go Clemson plus the points. I prefer the under. Texas will score enough to win. They'll drain clock when they have to. The defense and the secondary will dominate Klubnik and company. But I see an ugly game.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be a good game, but it's going to be a low-scoring game. You know what I mean? If that, I don't know if you guys makes any kind of sense. Tennessee,
I see like 24-17, 27-20. That's kind of the scoreline I have.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but it'll be good football, I think. Tennessee and Ohio State. Ohio State 7.5 favored here. Over under low 46.5. I can't. I need a reason to bet Tennessee
Okay.
because I can't stand Ohio State.
So it's going to be once again another, I'd say, warmer weather team in Tennessee traveling to the cold in Ohio. We'll see if that plays a factor or not. Ohio, last time we saw them, they lost to Michigan in what was probably the second funniest loss of the season, behind Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois. So it was up there. It was a bad
right
one.
there. Yeah,
they were favored by about 19.5 points. It was definitely an ugly loss there. Ryan Day's the real story here because you don't trust him to actually win any big games. However, they tend to make it to like the semis or the final.
They tend to make it to the big game.
And then they fall apart in the big game. So that's kind of why they are. I'll put it this way. I saw this on Twitter, which made me laugh. Ryan Day is the Nick Saban of James Franklin's, which I think is really well put. So I'm just going to throw that out there. The point is, though, Ohio State's offensive line is in shambles. They can't block anybody. Now, the receivers are very good, of course, with Smith and all the other options they have. The thing is, I think Tennessee's defense is actually a pretty solid unit, and I think this game should be an ugly one. But I think that Tennessee can also have some success offensively trying to spread Ohio State out. Many teams haven't really done that. Oregon did, and they beat Ohio State. I like Tennessee in this game. I think 7.5 is way too many points. I get that Ohio State's defense is solid, but I don't like the offensive line. They've been unable to run the ball the entire season. Do you like Will Howard? I'm not a big Will Howard guy. Do I think Imaliva's good? Not really. So I think you have a question on the quarterbacks, but I think it's a lot of points for a team that can't really block, for a team whose coach I really don't like, that most of the country thinks should be fired already. So I'm going to take points. I think Ohio State wins an ugly, physical game, 23-20. Give me Ohio State winning barely, survive in advance. I don't want to pick them to basically win by possession. I can't pick that. I'll go with Tennessee.
Me personally, this angle is like I think these players maybe have given up on Ryan Day. I don't know if they're bought in to him themselves, so I don't know how hard they're going to play for him. One, after an embarrassing Michigan debacle, which as a Michigan State fan was just glorious on multiple levels to that game. But anyways, I don't know if they're going to play. They should beat the hell out of Tennessee. Ohio State should. But I liked your comment about kind of surviving. They will survive this game, but I don't know if they cover this game. But I don't know if I can take a warm-ish weather team in 28-degree weather in Ohio State. But which apparently I don't know if that means anything. Just ask Michigan people.
Yeah, I see JC asking why I think Tennessee might try to spread out Ohio State. The argument is for Tennessee, if they're going to be successful offensively, they got to go back to their identity, which is going completely up-tempo, trying to speed up the defense, keep them kind of, I'd say, on their back feet the entire matchup, and take your deep shots when you got them. The thing is, Oregon had a lot of success spreading out Ohio State's defense, and a lot of teams in the Big Ten don't do that. They'll run the ball at a brick wall 40 times a game and they'll lose. That's how most teams play in the Big Ten. If you're asking why I think Tennessee's going to do it, I think some of the success has to do with giving Ohio State something they really haven't seen before and trying to capitalize on some big play opportunities. Ohio State should dominate time possession. Tennessee doesn't care about that. They just want to generate big plays. But Tennessee has some receivers, for example, Thornton, who's averaging 25.9 yards per catch. Like, they have some guys that can actually make some big plays. Imaliva, I don't trust to complete 80% of his passes, but do I think he can complete a couple for 40 yards apiece? Sure.
Right.
I think Tennessee can find some openings.
Fair enough. JC says, okay. There you go. Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, I don't believe that he's he's going to complete all those passes deep and it's just going to,
he just needs a couple.
Struggle. But I think if he gets a couple of those receivers can break that open. I like Tennessee plus the points, but I don't know if I can trust them because this screams Ohio State. I guess this is good. This hook is what's going to get you.
I feel like the one thing that kind of
If
bothers
you
me
like
about
Ohio State.
the one thing that bothers me though about Ohio State, just in general from a spread perspective, so much of their spreads this season have been based on reputation. Like looking at the
Yeah.
talent on paper, the $20 million roster they have, and
Yep.
with their
Yep.
overall talent, yes, I understand that they're still in the playoff and all. They've been underwhelming for the last couple of weeks. They had a war against, was it Nebraska a couple weeks
Oh,
ago? Like, they have really not looked that impressive because they can't block anybody. So I feel like Ohio State's issues, once again, are not properly reflected by their reputation on the spread. The spread feels like they're going, oh, Ohio State's going to dominate because they should. Yes, they
right.
should, but I think Ohio State's weaker than most years. And I feel like the spreads have not been truly indicative of that. I think Tennessee is more
That's
physical
fair.
than people think.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that. I hope they spread out Ohio State, because I think if they do, they have a fighting shot.
If we're going for the
But
game plan, you run it with Samson, you set up some
yeah,
deep play action passes, and you might end
absolutely.
up catching some bombs.
Take
I
some
think that
shots
makes
when you
sense.
can. Yeah, absolutely. Try and catch them off guard. We got one more game to talk about here, and this happens to be the best bet in our. We have a best bet in this game. This is the Friday night game. Indiana, Notre Dame, Irish -7, total 52.5. I'll let you kick it off here. I'm gonna try and pull this game up.
So for this one, I know that most
7.5. Shop your lines, by the way, folks. 7 is a good number, though.
Yeah, by the way, JC said he likes the under. I said what Tennessee's going to try to do. I didn't say they're going to be successful entirely with it, but I like the under in that game. I think both defenses are pretty solid.
I don't
For
hate the
this
under.
game,
Yeah,
though, Indiana against Notre Dame. It's actually the only game taking place tomorrow. For
yeah,
some reason, there's only one game on Friday night, but it is what it is. Now, it's a fun matchup based on proximity and based on a Cinderella story, as you have Indiana taking on a college football, I'd say overrated powerhouse, because they've been hyped up for many years without
yeah.
backing it up. However, we know Notre Dame,
Overrated
though,
juggernaut.
does tend to, I'd say, thrive in college football compared to Indiana. And no offense, Indiana's been great this season. Shout out to whatever they've done there in Hoosier land. We're not going to back them in this one. We are going to take Notre Dame minus the 7 in this one. Thought about maybe going Indiana earlier in the week when the line was at like 8.5 or 8 or 7.5, but now we're at 7. And I feel like the line is too short. If I'm going to roast SMU for not beating any currently ranked teams, I got to roast Indiana. Because who have they beaten the entire season?
Yeah.
They haven't beaten anybody. Now, I do think that part of it is not their fault, because it's the schedule. It is what it is. Ohio State beat them pretty handily after the first quarter of their matchup. But Indiana, I just think, is not as talented as Notre Dame team. Notre Dame, after losing to Northern Illinois earlier in the year, has been really, really good. It's why they're still here. They had the worst loss of any team in the field, and they're still here because they are 11-1. They even beat A&M in the first game of the season. They beat Louisville, who was pretty good, beat Navy. Navy beat Army in the last game that they ended up playing. Beat Army as well. Beat USC on the road. Scored 49 points in that game. I think that Indiana, their only way to succeed is going to be trusting Rourke to throw the ball around the parking lot for 300-something yards. However, it's in Notre Dame. It's a tough environment.
Yeah.
Indiana, I think, is a good story, and I love their head coach. But if you're asking who I think is more talented, I think Notre Dame's more talented at basically every position. And Indiana, going through the actual schedule of who they've played, once again, beat Purdue, who was a 1-11. Beat him 6-0. So nice win there. Lost to Ohio State by 23. Beat Michigan. So I guess they're better than Ohio State. Just kidding. Point is, they won that game by 5. The game was close. Beat Michigan State. They're not any good. Beat Washington. They were 6-6. Beat Nebraska. Beat Northwestern. Beat Maryland. Beat Charlotte. Beat UCLA. Beat Western Illinois. And beat FIU. So besides the loss to Ohio State, their best win this season was against arguably 6-6 Washington. Is that where we're at? Because they haven't beaten anybody. I got to acknowledge it. I'm rooting for Indiana. I get it, and I know that it's going to be a crazy atmosphere based on how close these teams are in proximity. Right. But they haven't beaten anybody. No. I got to at least factor it in. Notre Dame has better athletes. They should dominate the trenches. They have good running backs. I thought after a bad start, I thought that Leonard played better at quarterback. I think Notre Dame is more talented, and that's good enough for me. They could push here. If they win by 7, we'll take a push. Not the end of the world.
We'll take it. Right.
But I think a Notre Dame blowout win is more likely than an Indiana outright win, in my opinion. So I'll go with Notre Dame to cover. I think 7's too short.
I think 7's too short. Honestly, 10 is the number for me. I think they win by double digits.
They could house them. It wouldn't shock me if they house them.
They could, but I don't think it's like the Ohio State game for Indiana, but I don't think they're gonna. I think if you wanted to go anywhere, if you had to bet Indiana, I would do it like first quarter or something like that. But I don't think they can sustain Notre Dame for 60 minutes of football.
That's how I feel. I think Notre Dame wears them down.
Exactly. Sooner or later, Notre Dame's going to be up by it'll be a 1-score game at half. And then the next thing you know, it's a 2-score game. And then it's, you know what I mean? It will Indiana will be behind and will not be able to come back.
I personally see Notre Dame at some point being up by 17 plus at some point in this game. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Okay. Indiana, I hope once again for the story. And I love laughing at Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. I mean, if they lose this game, I will be very happy. But from a betting perspective, I think 7's too short. I think Notre Dame is more talented at basically every position, and they're at home, and they've been rolling teams. Army and Navy, I know they play the triple option. We watched them all year. 2 good teams, and Notre Dame beat the crap out of those 2 teams. It was not even close. They beat Louisville. I thought they dominated the scoreboard on that one too, despite the actual final score. I thought they looked better for most of the way through. I think they're just much better. It is what it is. I hope Indiana, is able to come back moving forward. And once again, if they win this game, I'll enjoy being wrong. I think it'll be fun seeing a Cinderella Indiana team make a deep run. I think it's a bad matchup. I'll go with Notre Dame.
Fair enough. JC says, I'll never bet a Notre Dame on principle. No action. Just hope Indiana pulls the upset. Fair enough. Might sprinkle Indiana money line just for kicks.
See, I hope Indiana pulls the upset, but as a gambler and as somebody who I feel like tries to find value, I'm willing to swallow my pride and take the fighting Irish.
I can't stand Notre Dame, but I just can't see Indiana winning this game or keeping it close. Common opponent, Indiana versus Purdue, 66-0. Notre Dame versus Purdue, 66-7. Indiana was way better.
To be fair, I think Purdue got worse as the year went on, to be fair. But, yeah, the point is we'll see what happens. But
I don't know if that was possible, but yeah.
I mean, I think Purdue had, I want to say 6 first downs in the entire game against Indiana. Yeah, it was rough. Then again, Indiana was playing for an actual playoff spot. So that was the biggest, motivation spot of all time. But I think Notre Dame's better. Give me 7.
Fair. All right, there you have it. That's our best bet. We'll be back. Are we going to be back next Thursday? What's the playoff schedule look like?
I have to actually check that.
Yeah. I think we'll be back. I know what we're going to have individual bowl game free picks out on the channel. So be on the lookout for those. Those will be dropping daily because there'll be so many of them.
We're about to record a couple of them. So
yeah, exactly. We're about to record some this week. So I think we aren't back. I don't think we're back on the 26th.
No, the quarterfinals officially start on the 31st.
31st. So, boom. We will be back before then. Be on the lookout for the live show.
I mean, in theory, if we know the matchups, we can probably do it a couple days early, but it'll be somewhere in the 20s for December.
Exactly. Be on the lookout for the live show. There'll be a notification. You should always hit the subscribe button, not just the subscribe button, but the notification button so you never miss any of our live content. But it'll be totally towards the end of the year, obviously. You'll get one more show on us before 2025 for sure. Good luck, fellas. Good luck to you guys as well. We're going to ride on that Notre Dame. Don't forget, like, share, as always, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next Winners and Whiners show. College cappers, good luck unless you're against this. You got anything you want to plug before we bounce?
No, not really. Once again, keep an eye out for the actual bowl game shows.
Perfect. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.